Some fights feel destined, the kind that define an entire era of MMA, and then there are fights that feel cursed. For nearly a decade, the UFC tried to book Tony Ferguson vs Khabib Nurmagomedov. 5 times it was scheduled, 5 times it fell apart. At first, it looked like bad luck, then it felt suspicious. By the end, it seemed like the MMA gods themselves were standing in the way. This is the story of the most cursed fight in UFC history.
Like fighter, I respect him, but like human being, I don't understand this guy. He a little bit stupid without his mind, you know? A little bit stupid guy, honestly.
December 2015, Tony Ferguson was on a 6-fight win streak. Khabib Nurmagomedov was undefeated at 22-0. The UFC would book them for the first time. Weeks before the fight, Khabib broke a rib in training. He was out.
Lightweight Khabib Nurmagomedov is off of the UFC's Fight Night card on December the 11th in Las Vegas, where he was set to return and fight Tony Ferguson. Nurmagomedov suffered a rib injury in training and had to withdraw from the bout.
Tony fought Edson Barboza instead, choking him out with a DAS. Fans shrugged, injuries happen, but maybe this was the first warning. The UFC rebooked the fight in April 2016. This time, it was a clear title eliminator. 11 days before fight night, Ferguson coughed up blood. Doctors found fluid in his lungs. He was pulled. Khabib stayed on the card, fought a short notice replacement and dominated. But the whispers began. Maybe this fight really was cursed. By 2017, the lightweight division was a mess. Conor McGregor had taken the belt from Eddie Alvarez, but froze the division while chasing Floyd Mayweather in boxing. The UFC created an interim title and booked Ferguson vs Nurmagomedov at UFC 209. But during fight week, Khabib's weight cut went horribly wrong. He was hospitalized on weigh-in day. The fight was scrapped. Ferguson mocked him afterwards, saying he saw Khabib eating cake during camp. That's where the infamous nickname came from, Tiramisu Tuesday. At this point, it wasn't just bad luck anymore. Fans called it cursed. Later that year, Tony fought Kevin Lee for the interim lightweight title at UFC 216. He submitted Lee with a triangle choke and became the first ever interim lightweight champion in UFC history. While Conor was away boxing Floyd, Ferguson was carrying the division. Everyone thought when Conor returned, or when Khabib was ready, Tony would finally get his chance. In 2018, the UFC stripped McGregor and booked Tony vs Khabib at UFC 223 in Brooklyn for the undisputed lightweight title. This was it. Years in the making. The whole world wanted it. And then, disaster. During media week, Tony tripped over his studio cable and tore his LCL. The UFC announced it on April 1st, April Fool's Day. Fans thought it was a joke, but it wasn't. The fight was off again. Max Holloway stepped in, then Holloway was pulled by doctors. Finally, Al Quinta agreed to fight Khabib on short notice. But fight week wasn't done with us. Just days before the event, Conor McGregor and his crew stormed the Barclays Center, attacked a bus carrying Khabib, and threw a dolly through the window. Fighters were injured by shattered glass. The whole card descended into chaos.
You alright, Mike? Mike, you okay? Get on, man.
Through all of that madness, Khabib still fought Al Quinta and won the undisputed lightweight title, but it wasn't against Tony. Later in 2018, the UFC booked Khabib vs Conor in one of the biggest fights in MMA history.
Back for the love of this, to come and shut this man up, a little rat, a little weasel.
On the very same card, Tony Ferguson returned from knee surgery to face Anthony Pettis. It was the closest Tony and Khabib had ever come to sharing the same stage, and it felt like the MMA gods were furious with us for even trying. Ferguson and Pettis went to war, a bloody fight that ended with Ferguson victorious. Khabib dominated Conor and forced him to submit, and then chaos erupted. Khabib jumped the cage and brawled with Conor McGregor's corner. The arena turned into a riot. Khabib was suspended for nearly a year. The MMA gods had made their displeasure clear, and their anger was only building until finally they would unleash their biggest wrath yet. When Khabib returned from suspension, he defended his title against Dustin Poirier in Abu Dhabi. Tony meanwhile was still on his legendary streak, waiting in the wings. Everyone knew it was inevitable. Ferguson vs Khabib was set for 2020. But the MMA gods were waiting, preparing their final strike. UFC 249. The fight was official, the undisputed lightweight crown. 5 years of build-up, a decade of waiting. It had to happen now. But the MMA gods had other plans. This time, they didn't just stop the fight, they stopped the world. A global pandemic froze travel, borders closed, Khabib stranded in Dagestan. Tony fought Justin Gaethje instead, and Gaethje broke him, round after round until Ferguson's 12-fight win streak was gone. By then, it was undeniable. This wasn't coincidence, this was divine intervention. The MMA gods themselves had made sure this fight would never happen. 6 months later, Khabib returned at UFC 254, submitted Justin Gaethje and retired undefeated at 29-0. Tony Ferguson never touched UFC gold again. His peak was over. 5 bookings, 5 disasters. The book was closed, the curse was complete. From broken ribs, to fluid in the lungs, to Tiramisu Tuesday, to a freak accident, to a global pandemic. The MMA gods made sure Ferguson vs Nurmagomedov would never happen. But if the curse had been broken, who wins? The mauler or the madman?